Hey everyone! Today we're going to talk about Mercia, one of the most important early kingdoms in British history. It was more than just a small group of people. Mercia became a big and powerful kingdom right in the middle of what we now call England. The story begins with a man named Icel. He came from Germany with his tribe, the Iclings. First, they settled in East Anglia, but later they moved into the middle of the country. That's where Mercia started. People think Icel became king around the year 515, but many believe the kingdom officially started in 527. He made a town called Tamworth the capital, though some say it may have been moved later to a place called Repton. In the beginning, things were tough for Mercia. For about 100 years, the kingdom had to fight off attacks from nearby kingdoms. But then came a king named Penda. He was the last non-Christian king of Mercia, and he was a strong and fearless leader. Penda fought against kings from places like Wessex and Northumbria, and won many battles. He even teamed up with the Welsh to defeat King Edwin of Northumbria. Thanks to Penda, Mercia became much bigger and stronger. But in 655, Penda went to war with another king named Oswiu from Northumbria. This time, Penda lost and was killed. Oswiu was a Christian, and after his victory, Christianity began to spread in Mercia. Penda's son, Penda, became king and also became a Christian. After that, every Mercian king followed the Christian faith. For a while, Oswiu took over the northern half of Mercia and gave the southern part to Penda. But he didn't stay in charge for long. Another one of Penda's sons, Wulfhere, took back control of Mercia. He focused on the southern lands but lost a big battle to Wessex, which made Mercia lose some land. After Wulfhere, his brother Aethelflaed I became king. He didn't fight with Northumbria, instead he made peace. He even married someone from the Northumbrian royal family to make sure things stayed friendly. The next two kings, Coenred and Kilred, didn't leave behind many records, so we don't know much about them. Then came Aethelflaed. He made the kingdom bigger again, but lost some land later to Wessex. After him, a man named Beornred became king, but he didn't stay in power long. Offa took over quickly. Offa turned out to be one of Mercia's greatest kings. He ruled for almost 40 years and made the kingdom stronger than ever. He took control of other places like Kent and Sussex. He also made a smart move by marrying his daughter to the King of Wessex, which helped him control that kingdom too. Offa was so powerful that he even talked to Charlemagne, one of Europe's most famous rulers. One of the biggest things Offa did was build Offa's Dyke. It was a huge wall made of earth that stretched along the border between Mercia and Wales. No one is exactly sure why it was built, but it probably helped protect Mercia from attacks. Parts of the wall still exist today and stretch nearly 150 miles. By the year 794, Offa was so powerful that he didn't even have to fight to take over East Anglia. He just had their king killed and took over. During his time as king, trade and politics were strong, and many people think of this as Mercia's golden age. And things were going great for Mercia when King Offa was in charge. But after he died, everything started to go downhill. Offa's son, Ecgfrith, didn't last long as king. He was killed after just about 5 months. People think it was revenge because Offa had forced other leaders to agree to Ecgfrith becoming king. After that, Coenwulf became king. He was related to an old Mercian ruler named Penda. Coenwulf had a rough time. There were uprisings in the south, and it was hard to keep the north under control. When he died, his brother Ceolwulf I became king, but he wasn't very good at the job, and ended up being replaced by a noble named Beornwulf. Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Wessex, King Egbert had been preparing in secret. By 825, he and his son Aethelwulf defeated Beornwulf in a big battle at a place called Ellendun. That battle changed everything. Wessex took over some of Mercia's lands, like Kent, Essex, Sussex, and Surrey. East Anglia also broke away from Mercia and joined Wessex. Beornwulf tried to stop them but was killed in battle. The next two kings, Ludica and Wiglaf, both tried to fix the damage. Ludeca also died in battle, and Wilef even lost his throne for a while to Egbert, but eventually got it back by making a deal. After Wilof came his son Wigmund, and then his grandson Wigstan, although we don't know much about Wigstan. Then Beorhtwulf became king, and during his rule, the Vikings started causing big problems. In 842, the Vikings raided London. Then in 851, they came back with 350 ships. They attacked London and Canterbury again. Beorhtwulf tried to fight them off, and his actions may have helped push the Vikings south, where King Aethelwulf of Wessex and his sons beat them. Next, Burgred became king of Mercia. He married Aethelwulf's daughter, Aethelswith, to form an alliance with Wessex. That worked for a little while. But in 865, a huge Viking force called the Great Heathen Army arrived in England. They attacked Northumbria first, then came down to Mercia. By 874, Burgred was forced to leave the throne and ran away to Rome, where he later died. The Vikings chose a man named Ceolwulf II to be the new king, but he didn't have real power. He followed what the Vikings wanted. In 879, he gave the eastern part of Mercia to the Vikings so they could settle there. That area became known as the Danelaw, where Viking laws and customs were followed. Ceolwulf kept control of western Mercia, but only because the Vikings allowed it. After Ceolwulf II, Aethelred II became the ruler. He didn't want to be a puppet of the Vikings, so he joined forces with Alfred the Great, the powerful king of Wessex. Aethelred agreed to recognize Alfred as his leader, and married Alfred's daughter, Aethelflaed, to seal the deal. Alfred had already beaten the Vikings in Wessex and built strong defenses, like fortified towns called burhs, a better army, and even a navy. He told Aethelred to do the same in Mercia, but Aethelred was too busy dealing with Viking raids to start the improvements. In 892, the Vikings came back again, this time led by a tough leader named Hastin. From 892 to 896, Aethelred and Alfred fought off the Viking attacks together. Alfred died in 899, and his son Edward the Elder became king. Edward sent his own son, Aethelstan, to Mercia to be raised by Aethelred and Aethelflaed. Around this time, Aethelred got very sick, so Aethelflaed took charge of ruling Mercia. In 907, she organized the defense of Chester when the Vikings attacked. When Aethelred died in 911, Aethelflaed officially became the leader of Mercia. She worked closely with her brother Edward to build more fortified towns along important roads. From 912 to 917, she built many of these forts, which later grew into towns and cities. She also led the fight against Viking raids and kept Mercia strong. When she died in 918, her daughter Aelfwine became ruler for a short time, but Edward soon took full control of Mercia. After Edward died, Aethelstan became king. First, he ruled as king of the Anglo-Saxons, and later he became the first king of all England. Some people might know about Mercia from the TV show Vikings. In the show, it's shown as a wild and unstable kingdom. There's a character named Queen Quinthrith, who asks Wessex for help. But that part of the story isn't true. The real Quinthrith was the daughter of King Coenwulf, but she was a church leader, not a queen. After her father died, she had a disagreement with the church about land. A story written much later made her look like a villain, but that wasn't based on real events. The show also gets King Burgred wrong. He wasn't a weak man or a bad person. He actually fought hard against the Vikings for many years before he was forced to leave. The idea that Mercia was always falling apart or full of schemers is made up for drama. In real life, Mercia was once the most powerful kingdom in Britain. If Alfred hadn't come along, people today might remember King Offa of Mercia as the one who united England. But since Mercia didn't leave behind as many written records, its story isn't as well known as those of Wessex or Northumbria.